What is going on, my leaders? Good morning, my people. Super pumped to bring this presentation or this video, this workshop, this live stream, whatever we're going to call it to you today, because we want you to keep your sanity in the summer. If you're someone who's like us, who has kids, when school gets out, it could be a little bit of a mess, especially when you're also trying to grow your business at the same time. And what we have found is over numerous summers, and this time, finally this summer, me being officially retired from my LAPD career, we found some things that have really helped us along the way to create that sanity that we need, the connection with our family, and being able to excel in our business. And we found some things that absolutely do not work along the way. Now, the truth is, there's going to be a little bit awkwardness in the beginning because you're going to be getting out of your current routine. But as much of that routine as you can keep, as well as do some of the tweaks we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about 10 different tweaks that you can make during summertime to really excel, will make this be a summer for you to remember. So guys, welcome to Modern Leadership, where we help you see things differently. We help entrepreneurs become not only successful in their business, but also successful with their home and personal life. We do that via quick tip videos on Mondays and Thursdays and longer episodes on Saturdays, as well as our book club that we actually have right now where we're diving into Dare to Lead. That's how we do it. We make sure that you do it without sacrificing family time or burning yourself out. Now, I do want to say there's one caveat to what we're going to be talking about here today on this live stream. And that is I want to make sure that your goals are in alignment with what we're going to be talking about here today. The reason why is because when we talk about the direction that we're going to be talking today, I want to let you know that it doesn't mean that you have to do these things or that you have to have the same goals as us. You can have a totally different goal. Maybe your goal is during the summer, I just want to be able to spend as much time as I can with my kids. Maybe you don't want to grow your business. Maybe you want to chill, relax so that you can, when the season comes, jump back into your business. And that's cool. But if that's the case, this video is not for you. This workshop will not be for you because we aren't just focusing on family. What we're doing is we're looking for people who want to not only excel when it comes to the connection with your family, getting to spend more time with them, more intentional time, elevating yourself, going on more vacations and having a blast with them. But we also want you to do it while you're growing your business to make this the summer to remember, where you're I don't know what happened. This was me, but we 4X'd our business and we went on more vacations than we ever gone on before. We got to spend more high quality time with our kids. We eliminated so much of the noise and we actually were able to grow our business even more over summertime. That is who this workshop is for. If you're the kind of person where I want to excel at both, this is for you. If you're not one of those people, that is totally cool. This workshop, you don't have to worry about this. Just go, disconnect. That's totally cool. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's no one right, best, only way. But what we're saying is today, we're going to show you how to excel at both. All right. Now, I have my incredible wife, Teresa, here, who's going to be sharing 5 of her tips. We're going to be going back and forth on things that work really, really well, because for me, I'm a details-oriented person. She has some of the details, but she also thinks of things a little bit differently than me. So I think this is going to be really powerful to get to hear it from both perspectives and take some of these things and implement it into your life, but you don't have to take them all. Even just one of these tips might be the game changer for you. It might lead you into creating other habits when you're, leaning into summertime. And then here's the thing. Once you go through this, you're going to learn so much that the next summer you can bring all of those things with you and even add a few different things, which is what we did this summer. And it is really working well. So that being said, we're going to dive right into these tips. Super pumped to be here. Teresa, it's great to always see you, even though I see you every day of my life. I wish I could see you even more. But it's really cool to get to see you, even though you're downstairs on video. So welcome to the call. You ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's go. So you are going to start off, right?
Yes.
Go for it.
All right. So I can't find my notes.
It's okay. It's not like we're live or anything.
All right. This is what happens when you go live and you're not prepared. Okay. So number 1 is creating a routine, or even maintaining a routine, but having some type of routine and then getting them involved. And I'll talk a little bit about that towards the end, but a routine is super important. And I know that sometimes we can get into the mindset of, well, this is summer, we should be relaxing and just kind of enjoying ourselves. And you can absolutely do that with a routine. with a schedule. Actually, you'll enjoy it more if you do have a schedule and you have some type of structure. I mean, kids thrive on structure and routines. Even though they may fight it, they do really thrive on this. And as a parent, you'll also maintain your sanity if you do stick to a routine. Now, ours looks a little bit different than during the school year because, it's a different season, right? So when you're entering a different season, you maintain either a routine or, part of your current routine, and you move it on to and make some tweaks, or you just create a whole new routine. Don't let it get too far off of the normal school year routine because, like I said, kids thrive off of schedules and just familiarity. So if you have some type of structure that you put in place, this is going to be essential because that way you can, first off, make sure that you are intentional and you can actually create some time for your family. You can create some time for your business, and you can also set some time aside for yourself because it may be the case that you really don't have any help and you have to do it all yourself. You're going to need some time alone, some quality time by yourself so you can recharge because, if everybody is home, everybody's kind of doing their thing and, you're all just like, just four walls, it might get a little crazy. So you want to make sure that you do have some type of schedule where you have some of these components in place, and then also getting the kids involved. So what we did this summer, we're like a week and a half into it, but before the kids got off, we were like, okay, we have to have some type of schedule. This is kind of like a routine now. It's been for many years since our kids they're in junior high, and our son is going off to college. Oh my gosh,
What?
not yet. He's going off to high school. So we wanted to have some type of structure and we started to plan, but we got them involved. We didn't want to just present a schedule to them because they weren't going to have any buy-in on that. So we wanted to make sure, and a lot of the things that we do, we always get our kids involved because if we need them to cooperate, we need them to buy into what we're trying to do. So we involved them in the planning and we asked them, what do you think would be a good idea? Like, what time do you think would be good for you guys to wake up? And I know that it can be like, okay, you don't want to ask your kids that because they're going to say 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning. But no, like they know that the earlier they wake up, the more time they have to play. So they said like 8 o'clock and they're like, okay, cool. And we did a lot of other things like trying to, see like how much time they can play and how much time, we would set aside for family time. And we created that schedule with them so that they could, be involved and actually want to do the things that we have planned. So that's kind of how we did it. And I think that this is kind of like the best way to get started.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And just for all my people out there who are like, well, how did you do this? Like, how did you have this conversation? I kind of want to break it down a little bit for you because this was a conversation that Teresa and I had first by ourselves, just her and I, where we're like, hey, let's put together what an actual schedule would look like. Now, me with my OCD brain, I need to see it like on paper and like actually have it like, okay, this is what we do Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. Like that helps me. For some people that overwhelms them, it doesn't. To me, it helps me. And so I was like, okay, let's sit down. Let's think about when do we have to work our business, or when do we want to work our business? When do we want to spend time with family? When do we like want to unplug in our own like little individual bubble times? When are we going to have times for just me and you? When are we going to like sleep? When are the kids going to wake up? All this kind of stuff. So we kind of like tentatively had an idea of what we wanted. It was not in stone until we bring it to the kids. Once we had this idea of like what it would look like, then we brought the kids in and it was during dinner time. We're like, hey guys, like we want to have the best summer ever. All right. We know that you guys want to play and we want you guys to be able to play a lot. All right. Mommy and daddy still have to work. We still have to do those things, but we also want to make time that we can spend more time together, go on walks. I'm thinking about like going to Magic Mountain and all these things. I'm exciting them. I'm talking to them using the belief bridge, which is what we teach inside of one of our programs, is like I'm selling them on what they want. Right. And they're like, I would love to do that. I would love to go on walks with you, Dad. I would love to do this with you. I'd love to go to Magic Mountain. I'd love to go do these kind of things. And when I'm selling them on that, I'm like, okay, so in order for us to do that, we need to make sure that we have like a really good schedule, and it can adjust. Like maybe 80% of the time we'll stick to it, and then the other 20% we'll just like do something else entirely different. But the more good we're at the schedule, the more playtime you guys are going to get, the more fun you're going to have, and the more time that you're going to get to spend with mommy and daddy. And so they were like, okay, I'm all in. Now, by the way, our kids are 12 and 14, which is a little different. We used to do this a little differently when they were younger, but when they're 12 or 14, we allow them to have some buy-in, right? And so while we're having this discussion, I first start out with what they want, okay? So critical in the coaching and leadership world to connect with what they want. I said, guys, what kind of fun stuff do you want to do during the summer? Notice I didn't say, what time do you guys want to go to bed first, right? I'm like, no, I got to lead with what they want, right? Because when you start with what they want, then you can lead them over the path of what it takes to get it, right? So I'm like, hey, I'm thinking Magic Mountain. What are you guys thinking? And they're thinking, oh, I want to go to the beach. I want to go to the pool. Let's go bowling. Let's do this. And I'm like literally taking notes ferociously, making sure that I'm like getting all the things that they said, right? And I'm like, okay, this sounds awesome. I also know you guys want to play, right? Like you're going to be able to play this amount of time, all right? But let's figure out like where in the day do you think would be best for you to play? And so now they're a part of this, and believe it or not, they actually put their time frame within the same time frame that we were thinking as well, right? And so we came up with a schedule with from 8 o'clock is when they wake up. We wake up earlier so we could do some business stuff and do our workouts and all that kind of stuff. And then from 8 to 12 is kind of like their time to read, to play, for my daughter to draw, for my son to watch a little TV, get a little screen time. And then at noon, we eat lunch. And then after that, we do about 2 hours, 1 to 2 hours of family activities. So that's like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So we'll go do things, we'll schedule things in advance. Wednesdays usually is our full family day, which like at 10 a.m. all the way till like 3 or 4 p.m. And we'll save like the best ones for Wednesday. But we have like this flow where now they know at noon, it's time to turn off everything, come downstairs, and they're excited because they're like, what are we going to do today? What are we going to do today, right? And then we're just now having this list. We're going through it. Oh, you said you wanted to go to the pool. Let's do that. You said you want to go ride a bike. Let's go do that. By the way, the things that they said that they enjoyed the most were the things that were free. I'm like, yeah. Guys, Magic Mountain and Disneyland. They're like, yeah, but can we go to the pool? Like, but can we go to the beach? I'm like, yes, let's move that up the list because obviously that is a lot cheaper, but also like it creates great experiences when we're doing what they want, right? Plus, if we lead with what they want, then they'll, on the other end, help us get what we want, right? Now, you may be wondering like, okay, so how do you actually make it so that you can actually excel more in business? Well, here's a couple different caveats that Teresa didn't tell you that like really helps us a lot. And that is like, we think about jobs around the house that we want the kids to do. And when they do it, they earn either money or time. So either one of those, money or time. So some things that they do, if they stay on track, if they do stuff with their laundry, if they take a shower first time, if they take less than 5 minutes for their shower, if they wake up at this time, if they go to bed at this time, they get like $10 a week. And if they do these activities, taking out the trash, doing the dishwasher, like all of these different things that typically Teresa and I would do because the kids would be at school, they get 30 or 20 minutes of playtime. And so what it's doing is it's taking things off of our plate, but also making them feel like, hey, you know what? Like we're a part of this team. We're actually doing this stuff now. We're actually taking these actions. We don't want to wake up late or go to bed a little bit late, because if we do that, then we're not going to be in alignment with, getting our allowance. And so what it's doing is it's taking things off our plate. What it's also doing is it's making sure that I take my business time, which was generally like, between the time the kids go to school and the times they get home, sometime in there I would fill in with business, and it makes sure that I compact it into this time frame, and that anything after noon is a no. I'm sorry, I can't do that. This is family time. Also, the same with my kids. Anytime they want to do something before then, unless it's something pre-planned that we've talked about, I'm like, sorry guys, noon is when we do this. So it helps maintain the amount of time you're spending in your business and the amount of time that you're spending on your personal life. Now, I do say that this is the timeframes that we came up with, does not mean it's the timeframes for you. I'm just saying that this is what worked out best for us. Maybe you want to spend more time working business, less time doing things with the kids, or vice versa, or you want to do something with the kids in the morning. That's totally cool. The whole philosophy is coming up with a plan, getting them involved, and seeing what you can do to take things off your plate so that you can actually get more stuff done in your business by doing that. And then one other caveat here is sometimes you can even bring them into your business. If they're old enough, get them to help you out in your business. See what some of the things that you're doing. I know just before this, my son was in here and he's like, Dad, you got a call right now. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to talk about? He gets interested in this stuff. So make them a part of it. Let them know what you're kind of doing, what kind of impact you're making, who you're helping, whose mommies and daddies you're, helping to elevate so that they can create a business or whatever it is you're trying to do. Get them involved too, so they don't just think that you're coming in here just to randomly like watch videos for 4 hours until noon, right? Just make sure that you can get them into buy into that, and it'll make them so you can protect that time even better. Of course, it's a little different when they're younger, but do whatever you can to get them involved. Does that make sense, Teresa?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you pointed that out because, I mean, it's super, super important to do that.
And that I actually didn't go into my point. Do you want me to go on my next point?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I know that actually took like 60 minutes, but that one is like the most powerful one. Okay. So my point is knowing that a routine might not go as planned, but it's going to teach you something so you can make adjustments as you go. So the way that we started this was not exactly how it is right now. Know that whenever you start a new routine, whenever you start a new time, like a new season, right? When the kids go to school, when they come back out of school, all these kind of things, know it's going to be messy. That's a part of this. Messy is important. So it's like this idea of like failure or struggles are important because it teaches you what you need to adjust. It teaches you what you need to make changes to. It teaches you how to grow. It teaches you like what to pay attention to. So if you notice that there's something that's not working out, that's perfect. Then this is an opportunity for you to go, hey, let's make an adjustment. Of course, bring them back in, get them to buy in and get them to like see, hey guys, what do you think? Like this part over here isn't working. What do you think we could do to get this part to work so that all of the other pieces can like work together, right? And by getting them to buy into it as well, they're going to be able to help level it up. But just know that just because it looks great on paper does not mean that it works in real life, all right? Mm-hmm. Practice it, try it, but be willing to adjust it, knowing that where you're going to find like issues or struggles, like that's the greatest opportunity because now you can actually adjust it moving forward. All right. Anything on that before you move on?
No, that's great.
Go for it.
Okay, so the next one is give them an incentive to participate and follow the routine. I talked a little bit about this and Mark went into it as well, but really just making it something where it's not like this chore for them. Because I mean, who wants to follow a routine when you're like, oh, it's summer break, just want to like, run free. But just incentivizing them. And, we incentivize our kids with like extra screen time because they love being on their, the Xbox or their phone or whatever. So we try to figure out the things that they would truly want. And we ask them, like Mark said, like what is it that they would want to do? What would be something that they, would do certain things for, right? I mean, for us, the thing that has kind of like really helped us this time is super simple, but it creates more space for us and it gives us more time. And I mean, the dishwasher and the trash, super simple tasks that, like I was thinking, oh, well, they should be doing that anyway, just to help around the house. But I mean, we didn't realize that it would take us a lot of time. The trash, maybe not so much, but the dishwasher, it's a pain. It's really a pain. But having, our daughter, she likes organizing and doing that kind of stuff. So taking out the dishwasher for her is not a big deal. And we thought it might, we might have to take some time to actually get them to get more involved and actually kind of enjoy it. But it wasn't a problem at all. And she likes putting stuff away and everything. And she knows that if she does that, she does it consistently, she'll get extra time. So really just kind of like we said, having them buy into it, they'll be much more likely to stick with it because I mean, we're only a week and a half into it and who knows, they may just be like, I don't want to do this anymore, but so far so good. And we've done this in other summers and they haven't gone as well as they have this time because I feel like we've kind of really mastered like all of the different components, like making sure they're involved, making sure that we're still spending a lot of time with them and a lot of quality time. Maybe it's not like a lot of like time as far as the amount, but the quality is really great. And we're just like incorporating all these things all together. And I think that this is kind of like the sweet spot for us.
I love it. The incentivizing piece is so so critical too. So I know Teresa was talking about like some of the things we ask them to do around the house. It's physical, but if you are somebody, for example, that you're into personal growth and you're into books, like what if you incentivize them to read a personal development book for kids? We were talking about this, I think it was yesterday, Teresa. I think we were talking about this yesterday. But it was all about like trying to incentivize things that you want to be repeated, right? You want that behavior to be repeated. You want the kids to actually enjoy it. Like finding books that are personal development in nature. I think the How to Win Friends and Influence People, I think that's one I'm going to get for my son. It's like one that's actual kid version of that book, not the adult version of the book. But then incentivizing them and telling them whether you're going to get more screen time or allowance, it's going to be tied to something where they're actually reading the book. I can't tell you how many times this has worked for us in the past. I don't know why I got off of it, but where they actually read it and they actually enjoy it. And they're like, oh my gosh, like this is actually so good. And one of my son always constantly makes fun of me because he actually read my book. He's like, Dad, I read your book 4 times. It's my favorite book of all. And he'll quote things in the book, which scares the crap out of me. But still, like he's like interested in it because once he starts reading it, he really gets into it. And so incentivizing that is awesome. Not that you have to incentivize them to read personal development books all the time. I don't think I would do that all the time, but just we go to Barnes & Noble and we're like, hey, do you want to pick something from the bookshelf? And my daughter's like picking like 4 or 5 different mangas, anime books. And then she's like already done by the end of the night. But it's like we're incentivizing them to do things other than screen time. But screen time is also a really great way of us being able to disconnect and do our business stuff. Not that we're going to have them do that all day, but then allow them to have that time to actually get back together with each other or get back together with the family and do that a little bit later. So that is such a very solid point. Kurt, I'm going to jump off a little bit here because I want to do something real quick. I want to recognize a few of the people who are helping modern leadership right now. And then I want to actually use this as kind of like a teachable lesson as well. So I don't know if you've seen, but we have like really been growing our modern leadership channel exponentially. If you haven't subscribed, definitely subscribe. Watch all our different replays. I know a lot of people are getting a lot from our workshop. And we have a lot of people who are even like listening to it like for the entire day, like out loud, and they're really helping the channel to build up some momentum. So I want to take a second here to just appreciate and acknowledge everyone who's doing that. We appreciate you so much for leaning in, for giving us some extra watch time, for listening to this, and then for implementing it. It means so much to us. And this is Aaron and Elena and Tiffany and Shelly and Trisha and Ryan and Eric and Carmen and Julie and Amber. Tiffany's even here right now. I just want to say how much I appreciate you for doing that and for leaning into the message, because it makes a huge impact, not only because you get the opportunity of listening to it, but also like it tells YouTube that what we're doing here is valuable. So I greatly appreciate you for that. Now, that being said, I also want you to make sure that you recognize your kids and your husband and your family and anybody else for when they step up too in this process. Now, what I did, like just before this, I'm like 100% honest. Like I have your names all written down because I really want to recognize you because you are a huge part of modern leadership here. It is very like, it's helping this channel really take off. And I appreciate you so much for that. I also want you to use this as a way of not only acknowledging and appreciating when people, when your kids, when your family, when like things are going well at home and what they're doing well. And then also know that like you can make recommendations or ask for help doing other things as well, right? So if we're constantly like telling our kids to do this and this and this, and we're not saying, hey, Alyssa, like you're doing really great with the dishwasher. I just want to say like, I'm super proud of you, but also it takes a lot of like extra time away from me that I can actually spend elsewhere, like spending time with you. And I just want to say I appreciate you for doing that. And because her love language is words of affirmation, she gets a huge smile on her face. And then guess what happens the next time the dishwasher goes off? She's like, I'm here. I'm ready to do this. So don't forget to acknowledge the people, your family, on the things they're doing really, really well. And then, yes, you can talk about like, what are some other things that we could do? What are other ways we could do this? Like all those kind of things, but just really getting in to reminding yourself of acknowledging and appreciating them for the things they do. Especially the things that you don't typically acknowledge or appreciate because you feel like that's just a part of their job or what they already do. Like taking a second to just sit down and go, I just want to let you know that I appreciate you for this. And I didn't know I was going to bring this up, but Teresa and I used to do this thing a long time ago that we started last week again. And it was like every week on Sunday, we would sit down, we would break out our journal. Got my little journal right here. No, you guys don't get a chance to read it. No, Kurt, you can't read it either. But it says, we sit down and we're like, hey, what are 3 things that I appreciate about Teresa today or this week? And I'll write 3 things. And here's my 3 things. And then she writes down 3 things that she appreciates about me. And then we kind of go back and forth sharing it. I can't tell you how helpful it is to acknowledge and appreciate somebody for something that they do all the time that you appreciate so much about them, but you're just not good at verbalizing it. Because I'm not as good as verbalizing it, considering that she does these things all the time, and I appreciate her so much, but if I don't tell her, she's never going to know, right? That you could do this, of course, with your significant other, but you should definitely do this also with your kids, like appreciating and acknowledging them, like even getting around the table, dinner time, right? You're like, guys, what we're going to do today is we're going to say, what do we appreciate about mommy this week? What is something that mommy did or said that made us feel loved by her? And then everybody goes around the table, right? Maybe the next day we'll do Alyssa. Maybe the next day we'll do Andrew. Maybe the next day we'll do me. Like maybe all the same day. These are just all great opportunities to acknowledge and appreciate people, because so many times we rush to what's broken, wrong, or missing. Please don't do that, especially with your kids. Remember to like lift them up, because they're doing so many things well, even if there's a few things that they're not doing well. But guess what? So am I too, okay? I'm doing great at a couple of things and terrible at a bunch of things, right? And if somebody approaches me with just the terrible things, I'm less likely to open up and to actually change that. When then versus, and Teresa already knows this, approaching me the other way always gets me to go, oh, I'm all in. What can I fix? What can I adjust? What can I do even better, right? And it's because of the way that you approach this. So do the same things with your kids. Acknowledge and appreciate them for what it is that they are doing and get them to buy in, like Teresa was saying, okay? All right. The next time, actually, Tiffany says, every week as a family, we've been saying what we are grateful for and our goals for the week. I love that, Tiffany. I love that. Like when it comes to like what you're thankful for, I always love to like even put twists on that. Like, who are you thankful for? Like, what are some things that happened this week that you're thankful for? Like, what are some things that you're thankful for that you were born with? What are some of your strengths that you really love? Because you like are able to like really lean into them and really help people with those strengths. Like there's a bunch of different ways of bringing up those kind of questions. We actually have this box. We don't use it that much anymore because we're so good at asking questions that has like little questions that you can ask them. Like, what are you proud of yourself for doing this week, right? And then just getting them to talk and have conversations. I was super proud because I beat this level of my game. And then you're like, that's awesome. Like, what did it take? What did you have to do? How does that make you feel? Like, we just love asking questions like that because it allows them to experience it over again. So really great job, Tiffany. I know you're one of our coaches in our certification, and this is like something that's second nature for you. But I can't I mean, if you just even think about this, like how it's transformed the relationships that you have in your family because you're good at asking questions and really good at like getting people to be acknowledged and appreciated, just how much difference that makes for the future, right? I really wish our kids were taught this a little bit earlier, okay? At least that's what I think. Okay, so my next tip, by the way, we need to speed these tips up, okay, Teresa? My next tip is to be intentional. Be where you are physically and mentally. You have this plan. You're like, here's the plan. I know, like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, and then things are going to be adjusted, right? But you have to be where you are. There's nothing worse than you being in your business, thinking about what you're going to be doing with your kids, thinking about like you're somewhere else on the planet, and so nothing gets done in your business. There's also nothing worse than being with your family and thinking about, well, what are all the posts I need to make? What is all the YouTube videos I need to do? And what's all the podcasts I need to do? Anytime that comes up for me, I have to shut it down. I have to be where I'm at, meaning I'm there physically and I'm there mentally. I remember when I was a part of a mastermind with Larry Hagner, he was talking about like how you know when you're there physically and mentally is when you check in with your senses, all right? He says that when you check in with 4 of your 5 senses, you can know that you're there physically and mentally, all right? Number 1 is what do you see, right? So look around. Think about like, what are some things that I see right now that like I haven't taken a second to even acknowledge and appreciate them recently, right? Like this camera, all these awesome things that we have here, right? Then let's say smell. Like, what do you smell? How many of you guys who have kids, which is probably a lot of people on this call, know what your kids smell like? How about when they were babies? How about like that Johnson & Johnson baby like wash shampoo? Like, do you know that smell? That means you're physically there. When you used to hug your kids and you could smell that smell, now the kids are getting older, the smells have changed a little bit, but still, it's still a smell. You're there because you're smelling it, right? Let's see, what else? Hearing, what are you hearing? All right. I remember I did this actually when I was out on a run a couple months ago, is like I was going through all these senses. I'm like, what do I hear right now? You hear like birds chirping. You hear like sounds in the background. You hear like some waterfall. You hear like some sprinklers. You hear some dogs barking. You hear some sirens. Like all of these things put you in that moment. What do you hear, right? Your kids right now, the way their voice level is going to be different than when they're a little older, right? My son was like really high up here and now he's like really low. He's like lower than me, right? But it's like that stuff changes. How could you be there in the moment and listen to it, right? And the next one is feel. What does it feel like when you give your kids a hug? What does it feel like when you're outside on a run, when your feet are like moving off the pavement? What does it feel like when you're swimming? What does it feel like when you're taking a shower? Can you see like how when you actually think about all of these senses, then we have taste. That was a little different. This is a PG-13 like kind of a channel here, so we can't go into that. But all the other ones for sure.
I mean,
yeah, food. You're right. Food and I know we kind of like talked about smell, but like even like food and smell and sight and taste, like it can even bring back some really awesome memories of when you were a kid, right? When you used to have Thanksgiving with everybody, when you used to eat like whatever, right? It just brings back these awesome memories, but it's because also you were physically there and mentally there. So when we're thinking about being intentional, start asking yourself, let me think of my four of my five senses. What do I see? What do I hear? What do I feel? And what do I smell? And that puts you in that moment where you're supposed to be. If we were more intentional, and this is me included, we would get way more stuff done. The problem comes is when we're jumping back and forth between these two different places so often, but when we're all in, you've all had these moments, I know, where you're like all in, like so much stuff gets done because you're not jumping all over the place. So make sure you're intentional. Set up boundaries to make sure that you can be intentional. And as you go, remember that these are things you're going to have to change. If you notice that you're not present there physically and mentally like you want to, what are some things that need to change? Maybe you need to take it to the road show, right? Maybe you need to go to the coffee shop to do your work. Like, I don't know. There's many different things. Maybe you need to have a out to work sign on your door where your kids like, know, like, hey, this is the time that's family time and this is the time when it's work time. Like, maybe you need to wake up earlier. There's so many other things. But really just being intentional with where you're at is going to show you where some of those adjustments are that you can make. So, all right, that was my point. Your turn.
You know, I never thought about it that when we were talking about the senses, that you do remember things from your childhood because you were present, because like that, or sometimes that smell, you know, like, oh, I remember when I like the smell of cotton candy and going to the fair when I was a kid or whatever, right? So it's because of that. It's because you were physically present with all of your senses. So just imagine how you can do that now. Like, what is it that you want to remember? Do you want to remember your kids at this age? Okay, well then, like, make sure that you guys do something that will, you know, you'll remember, right? Like, we're gonna go on a hike later, and you know, right now, like everything's blooming, so I'm sure we're gonna smell like all the vegetation. We're gonna hear things, and like all of that stuff is just like I never thought of it that way. That's why, you know, you remember certain things. Right.
Yeah.
So,
And one of the things we're going to hear for sure is the kids complaining, and we're going to be okay with it.
that's another thing too.
Because
You know
they're
what?
not
Later
gonna
on, later on, we're going to be like, oh man, remember when they used to complain? Like, oh, I wish we were back then.
Yeah.
Different
They're gonna be
problems
like,
now.
I'm hot. Like I want some water. I'm like, you just had water like 5 steps ago. Like, you're okay. You're gonna, but I'm hungry. I like, but that's just, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna be like looking at each other now. We're gonna be laughing, right? But it's gonna be like those moments where later on we're gonna remember that forever, right? Okay.
Exactly.
You're next.
Okay, so the next one is realize that this is just a season and find a way to enjoy it and relax without bringing extra stress with you. So I know we talked about, hey, you know, and these are just suggestions, right? You should have a schedule, you should do this, that, and the other, but realize that this could be your time off, right? So please enjoy it. Don't put undue stress on yourself. And, you know, I don't know how I'm going to do all this. I don't know how I'm going to be present, spend quality time with my kids, work on my business, you know, focus on myself. Like, don't make it so that you feel overwhelmed. Still realize that this is maybe a time for you to relax. And if that needs to be a priority, then make that a priority, right? You know, get creative, and, you know, maybe you have to shorten the time that you work so that you can put in some extra time onto yourself or your family. Just, there's so many ways to really make it work, but just realize that this is not a season to stress out. I mean, any season shouldn't be a season to stress out, but this most importantly, because you don't want to be in that mindset of, you know, feeling overwhelmed when, you know, maybe it's time to enjoy the kids, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say like, so many times when we do have that feeling, it's because we have the expectations that it's supposed to be perfect and it's supposed to be
Hmm.
completely balanced and everything's supposed to be like flowing perfectly. And the kids are supposed to be like with their hands like this, waiting for you outside. Yes, daddy. No, mommy. Like that is not real life. And really like understanding that this is a process that if you're willing to lean into it and you're thinking of it as a science experiment, it's just there to teach you something. Like what are some adjustments that you can make along the way, right? And thinking that it has to be perfect, thinking that it has to be amazing, like Instagram kind of quality. I mean, if you guys saw the behind the scenes of what we have here, like it's not like that. It doesn't work like how we intended it to be, but that's kind of like how we intended it to be. We intended it to be like, hey, this is going to be a little bit messy. It's going to be a little bit weird, like especially like having like this time frame and whatnot. But it's something that when we have the structure, it actually takes less pressure off of us. So don't put pressure on yourself to make this perfect because it's never going to be perfect. That's why it's more of like a harmony. It's a flowing back and forth between it, figuring out where your place is, just making sure that you learn from it, right? The worst thing is that when things keep happening and happening and happening and you don't do anything different, right? You're just like, I've just got to keep forcing it this way. And you're not going to learn that lesson. So it's going to become a worse lesson and it's going to keep pushing you until you finally decide to learn it, right? And that's the process of this. It's not meant to shame, guilt, or humiliate. It's more of like, hey, what's this next step that we can take? Oh, and this is trying to teach me something. What is it trying to teach me? Okay. Next one is be open to thinking outside the box. Now, I should have started with this one because this one is critically important. If you came into this training and you got all the way here and your thought is like, I can't do this. It's not possible. There's only one of me. I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm a single parent. I'm a bup. I'm a bup. I'm a bup. I'm a bup. Whatever that but is, you're not going to succeed at any of this. Because when we put ourselves in a box and we say that there's no way that we can excel, our mind will convince us that this doesn't apply to us, and so we won't even try. That's the thing about our mind. Remember, our brain is trying to keep things easy on us because it wants to protect us. It wants to keep us safe. And if it knows that we've been able to stay safe by doing the things we've done in the past, it's only going to allow us to keep doing those things over and over and over again. It won't allow us to do anything new. But when we can lean into new things, that's when we have the greatest opportunity, not only for growth, but finding a way. You don't need to know how you can excel at both right now. All you need to do is have awareness of it's possible. It's possible. I just may not have the answers right now. You may get to the end of these 10 tweaks and you're like, I don't even have the answer yet. That's okay. Because if you're willing to go, the answer's out there, I just haven't found it yet, I promise you'll find it. This was that process for me too. It was how can I excel at business, in my LAPD career, and as a parent and a spouse. And let me tell you, the first group that I joined, the first team that I was a part of, did not help me solve that problem. I took bits and pieces from this one, bits and pieces from this one, joined a mastermind for the Dad Edge, joined a mastermind with Josh Coates, got what's some one-on-one coaching. All of these things combined allowed me to find the ways within there to excel at all of it. Am I still improving? Heck yeah, I'm improving because I still don't think that I've gotten to the end, which will never happen, right? I always feel like I'm in the middle. And I'm just trying to get into another room to learn some new things. So as long as you're open to it, you will find it. But if you find yourself saying that you don't have the time, that you're just this kind of person, that you don't have anybody to help support you, you don't have a supportive like partner or spouse, any of those things you will manifest that into not being able to succeed because you've closed yourself in a box. All right. So don't close yourself in. All right, Teresa, you're up. And Amber's here. Amber, what's going on, girl?
Okay, so the next one is to ask for help and communicate it, right? We're not just going to wait around for someone to, ask us if we need help. It's like tap into your support system. And if you don't have a support system, find out ways on how you can take things off your plate so that you don't have that season of overwhelm, right? Like we have tons of videos, and one of them is the outsourcing video. So, look at that and see some of the things that can help you so that you don't overflow or, overdo it, right? Because the last thing you want to do is to, have this season be something that is stressful and that's just going to take you throughout like the rest of the year. And that's not a way to create momentum. In fact, that'll keep you from, moving at all. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you ask for help. There are people, out there who will, I'm sure be willing to help you in any way they can, right? And you just got to communicate it and just got to ask.
100%. Like one of the things that tends to come up a lot with the people that I coach is when they don't communicate, it turns into resentment, it turns into frustration, and it turns into like anger towards your spouse, towards your kids, towards your team, towards whatever. And I'm like, have you asked them to help you? And they're like, no, they won't help. And I'm like, you're basically making that decision now. Now, I can tell you there's ways to ask for help rather than just saying, hey, like, can you see that I'm working all over here? Like, are you going to help me? Yeah, that's going to work, right? Remember, we got to meet them where they're at. But really having that conversation, being able to communicate is key, because if nobody knows you're struggling or you're suffering, how are they going to be able to help you? I always hate this. Like, a lot of times people think that you're like a mind reader, that you can read their mind, and you can't. Like, and it's true even for me. So like when I have this thing that I'm struggling with or something, I want to verbalize it to Teresa. I want to verbalize it to my kids. I want to say it out loud, because if they don't know, they can't help me, right? And just literally by doing that, which is the uncomfortable thing, which is why we're reading Dare to Lead inside of our book club, is because it's all about having these vulnerable moments and being willing to share that, being willing to communicate, because you can't get it any better if you don't have a conversation, right? But like Teresa said, you can outsource this, but you can also do it. Like it can be with a significant other. It can be with your parents. It could be with your kids. It could be with your friends. Like, let's say, I'm going to give you a hypothetical. Okay. I have a lot of coaches that I coach one-on-one, right? And so a lot of them are doing their group programs. A lot of them are doing like webinars. Some of them are doing like workshops. Some of them are doing challenges. And I'm like, why don't you do that with other people on the team? Like our push coach team. Like if you just see what Josh and I are doing, right? So Josh has his business, I have my business, and we're the mold in between it. You're going to see me on calls with him and him on calls with me. I'm going to be at the Power of I Am. We're going to be speaking in front of like 300, 400, 500 different people with him there. And it's because we're teaming up, because like what would happen if you teamed up with somebody else who had the same similar goals than you, the same aspirations. You wanted to create a similar program with each other, and you teamed up so you didn't have to do it all. Well, it would mean that you'd be able to get more done in less time, because they're going to be working on this, you're going to be working on this, and when you come together, it's both going to be done. You're not going to have to do it all yourself. So these are just different ways that you can think about this. Not that everybody has to go out there and do that, but these are ways that when you're open to it, like I said the last time, you're going to be able to find those answers. So really great point, Teresa. All right. Next one is, know you're still going to be pulled in a million different directions. Okay, so this word balance has this like weird connotation that you're going to find the perfect middle ground. It's going to be like that forever. Guys, when I'm here doing this YouTube live, even though I do get to spend time with Teresa, by the way, this is kind of like a hidden way of getting to spend time with your spouse a little bit extra. You get them onto YouTube, and you make them blush a lot. That's kind of like my role here. But in reality, like I do want to be able to spend more time with my family. I want to be spending time with them right now. And then when I'm spending time with my family, sometimes I'm like, I do really want to do some stuff for business because YouTube is blowing up right now, and I want to continue to create that momentum, right? It's just the way it is. And then I'm like, also like, I really just want to play some video games so I can get a second to just like recover, because my brain is constantly thinking about family and business and family and business. I'm like, I just want to recover and just like go on a walk or play some video games. You're always going to be wanting to be tugged in those different directions, right? That's a part of this process. Yes, it's kind of like this ebb and flow that we talked about, harmony. It's like, do I make an adjustment next week or do I keep it the same? And you figure out what that is along the path, knowing that it's not going to be the same every week, but it's also not going to be the same every year, not going to be the same every month. It's not going to be the same every decade. You're going to be like floating between your version of this harmony between both of them. And the best thing you can do is make a decision like, okay, do I want to make any different changes this next week, or do I want to keep things the same? Of course, having that communication also with your spouse and with your kids is awesome to do. Anytime you can bring them into it, it's good. Even if all you do is verbalize it out loud, at least you're going to have somebody else, another human who's going to hear it, and you can be able to bounce ideas back off of you. But when you're going, just know it's okay to be pulled in a bunch of different directions. We don't just have like one thing that our whole entire life is designed around. There's other things that we like. There's other things that we want to like lean into. There's other things that we love. There's other things that we want to like develop and grow. And yes, we might be putting more time into this specific area. Like for me, YouTube, I'm going to be putting so much into this. But at the same time, I know that I'm also going to want to spend time with my family. I'm also going to want to chill by myself. I'm also going to want to get some sleep, right? And I got to figure out along the path, what adjustments can I make along the way? What is this trying to teach me? And where's my version of harmony or balance, like people say, in order to get me to feel that way, right? And it's different for everybody. So Tiffany, for example, she's like, hey guys, appreciate this so much. I'm going to go to the pool with my kids and I'm going to finish watching this a little bit later. So that's her going, hey, this is the spot that I need to be spending my time in right now. It doesn't mean that it's right, wrong for anybody else. It means that for Tiffany, that's her right spot for her to lean into, right? And our spot might be a little bit different, right? It's all about like finding your spot and not trying to convince you yourself there's one right, best, only way, and that your mentor, the person you look up to, has it all figured out, because they're not you. They don't have your personality. They don't have your strengths. They don't have your weaknesses. They don't have your kids. They don't have your schedule. They don't have your business. They don't have any of that stuff. You can't compare yourself to anything like that because it's unfair for you, but it's also unfair for them. All right. So make sure that you're willing to lean in and understand that you're going to be pulled in different directions. That's okay. You can make adjustments as you go.
Love that. Okay. The next one is don't overcommit. Don't overcommit.
This is me. Are you talking to me?
No, of course not. Never talking about you. Yeah. So obviously, the summertime is time to, relax and stuff like that. But everybody likes to cram in a bunch of things during summer. Like it seems like summers are getting a lot shorter. I remember when I was a kid, I would get like a full 3 months, but now it's like 2 months barely. So you may overcommit sometimes. You may say yes to some of those birthday parties, right? And every weekend you'll have a birthday party and, putting kids into camp and just really just putting so much on your schedule because you feel like, oh, it's summertime, we need to do this, or we'll have more time. And then before you know it, you have something every single day and you're like, okay, when am I going to find time to do my business? Or when are we going to actually find time to spend time as a family and not go to a birthday party? So make sure that you really get intentional about what you're going to be doing. Make sure you have some type of goal where you're not just saying yes to everything and you're not overcommitting, because the last thing you want to do is get to the end of summer and school starts again. And then you're like, I didn't do anything. And now school is starting. This is a different season, different stress. And, you feel like you're falling behind. So try not to overcommit. I know that, obviously you are still going to do some of these random things, but just be cognizant of what you're doing and protect your schedule.
Yeah, I'm like the overcommitting king, so I'm going to give you guys some tips for not overcommitting. Even though this last week I overcommitted. So Amber, by the way, asked a question like, what should we avoid saying? Amber, give me a little bit more details in terms of like what you're talking about in terms of like what we should avoid saying during what time. Let me know, okay? Just type it in the comments.
When asking for help, I think.
Okay. So let me dive into like this whole idea of overcommitting, and then we'll answer Amber's question. So when it comes to like overcommitting, there's a couple things we can do. Number one is we think we can get more done than we actually can. And so we add things in there, or we feel like if I don't do this, like I'm going to miss out on something. Either of those is not the kind of energy that you want to have, right? So if you take on more than you should, which is what happened to me last Thursday, and I literally had like 2 days where I have super low energy, including today. Thankfully, Kurt gave me a little boost of energy this morning from a message that he sent me. But it was like I was now down in the dumps for a couple days because my energy was totally wasted because I had like, I think 5 hours worth of calls back to back to back to back. And Teresa brought me some food and it was sitting here like 2 hours later. And I'm like, I still haven't been able to eat it because I overcommitted. Overcommitting sometimes can be like, hey, Mark, like next time, let's really think about this and take this through your filter and see if it's something that's possible. Sometimes it's like, hey, this is a one-time thing that I'm going to do and I'm not going to do this ever again. But sometimes if you notice that you're doing it a lot, it could be coming from this place of scarcity. Like if I don't do this, I'm not going to succeed. This is what success looks like. If I don't say yes to this person at this specific time, they're going to not allow me to, and we can get into this like really scarcity head-based talk, right? And so when we're thinking about like committing or not, it's running it through your filters, right? So we kind of had before where we talked about like what your schedule is going to look like and all that stuff, right? So when you look at your schedule, you have a filter, right? So if somebody's like, hey, Mark, love to have you on the podcast. Ed Milet, at like 3 p.m. on Thursday, let's do it, right? I would have to make a decision. Am I willing to take that time from some other place and find a time to replace that, right? So if I'm like, you know what, that is super important to me. Let me see with my kids. Let me check with them. I'm not going to tell them yes. I'm going to say, let me check. I'm going to check with my kids. Say, hey guys, are you okay if we do the morning time we spend family time and then later in the afternoon? You can make adjustments along the way, but you have some kind of filter. The problem we run into is when we say yes immediately. We're like, I have to say yes right now or I'm going to miss this opportunity. So when that happens, yes, definitely like take a second, see if it can run through your filter. And then as it runs through your filter, then you can make a better, more proper decision, not based off of scarcity in the moment kind of feelings, but more like, okay, I'm more calm, cool, collected. Let me make a decision based off of now looking at my priorities and what are the things that are most important. So 100%. Okay.
You know, another way to look at it, because you talked about like the, fear of missing out. There's something called joy of missing out, where it's on the flip side, right? Instead of fearing that you're going to be missing out on something, you start to think about, oh, like the joy of missing out on certain things, right? So, especially during the summer, you're like, hey, friends want to get together like every week with the kids to go to the beach or whatever. It's like, you know what? Instead of like, oh man, like I should probably commit to that because, otherwise, like I'm not going to spend time with my friends either, or the kids aren't going to spend time with their little friends. But think about it like, okay, what if I do miss out? What am I going to gain? If I don't do that, what other thing can I do that actually is going to bring me joy? So I'm actually going to want to miss that because this other thing over here that is a priority of mine takes precedent. So thinking about it that way, instead of like missing out on something, you're actually like looking forward to not doing that thing because you have other priorities.
I love it. I love it. It kind of also just brought up another thing for me when it comes to like the committing thing, because this is actually something that I went through maybe about 2 weeks ago because I was a part of the Dad Edge Mastermind where I actually elevated myself to the instructor in the class. And so after that ended, there's been a lot of the guys in that group who are successful business owners and parents and husbands. They want to get together every Friday and just have a conversation with each other. And it sounded like a really great idea, but I had to decline because Fridays, which is the days they want to do it, are the days that I work my business. And there's very strict, like, this is when I work my business. These are the calls that I have on Fridays. I have my call related to master coaching, and then I have time for my family afterwards. And it wasn't going to fit in on a weekly basis. And so I just had to reach out to them and say, hey guys, I appreciate you so much for thinking of me. I really love you guys. I really would love to be a part of this, but right now it's not in congruence with like my schedule or what I have going on. I appreciate you for reaching out to me and asking me about this. If the times change, that's cool. But like for right now, I'm not going to be able to attend, right? And so it was a little difficult to say, but after I said that, I can't tell you how much of a relief you have when you're like, now I didn't just commit to something else that's going to take something else off my plate. Remember, when we say yes to things, we're actually saying no to a bunch of other things that we could be doing in that specific moment, right? And so when we realize that that's the case, I usually will have to remove something in order to put something on. We have to make a conscious decision, right? I was listening to a podcast the other day. It says, I like to choose who I'm going to let down. I'd much rather choose than allow it to happen by default. So instead, I choose to let my friends down versus letting my family down. I choose to let this person down versus this person down. And I know it's kind of is a little tough, but you're going to have to let somebody down. Don't try and do both because you're going to let them both down, right? If you try to, chase two rabbits, they say you're going to end up catching none. But when you do that, you got to lean in and you got to think about okay, do I want to make a decision that's related to who I want to let down, or do I want to let it happen by default? I don't like it happen by default. I'm kind of like a control person when it comes to that, but you have to ask yourself that question. All right. The last one is, how can I excel at both? We kind of started with this and now we're going to end with it. And that is even if you didn't come up with your solution here, even if maybe you have some different ideas, even if you're like Amber, she's trying to figure out who are some people that I can ask for help, right? I want you to keep asking yourself, how can I excel at both? Do not allow your brain to think that one has to come at the sacrifice of the other. It doesn't. Maybe it takes a little bit more creativity than most people on the planet. Maybe it takes a little bit more time to find it. Maybe it takes a little bit more money to be a part of masterminds. Maybe it's going to take you a little bit more time to be ultra successful. But do you want to get to the end of your journey here? And like they always used to say in the mastermind, you want to come home to a pocket full of money to a home full of strangers. You don't want to have a pocket full of money to a home full of strangers. Then right now is the time to do that. Right now is the time to believe it's possible. How can I do both? You keep asking yourself that question. And if you plug into Modern Leadership, we're going to give you those answers along these different workshops. You're going to find little mini answers in every single one of these, and you're going to be able to build it up into what you are able to create. And then I hope that you go out and you share it with everybody else, because you get to ride on, or somebody else gets to ride on your coattails. Definitely do that. Be willing to lean in. I promise you're going to find those answers. All right, let me go. I think Amber had a question about you said ask for help. How do we decide who to ask for help? With what, and how do we ask for help? What should we say? What should we not say? And how should we not ask for help? Do's and don'ts. Okay, so Amber, here's what I have to say about this is it depends on what specific area you're thinking about. Is it with the kids? Is it with the house? Is it with whatever? Because obviously, if you're thinking about things at your house, you can't ask somebody online, like a virtual assistant, to help you with that, right? So if you're talking about friends and family and people like that, what I typically always do is I always lead with a little bit of vulnerability, and I always lead with a little bit of why I came to them. Okay. So if I'm hey, listen, this is a little bit of a tough subject. I am falling apart in this specific area. And I don't know who else to come to. And I know that you are always somebody that I can lean into. You are always somebody who has the best advice and direction. And I just want to see if I could get some of your input and maybe some of your help to see what I can do in this situation. All right. And when you come at that level, now you're talking to somebody who really does value and care about you, they're going to be okay, yeah, tell me what's going on. And then just having that conversation, who knows if you're going to say the right things or the wrong things? I can tell you the wrong things are just to say nothing, right? It's all a process. You may say something that is well, look at me, I've been doing all this, and what are you doing? Obviously you're doing that is going to push them away. It's going to use shame, guilt, and humiliation, right? But just share what's on your heart. Share what it is that you're going through. Share some of the struggles that you have, and see if there's anything that they can think of, right? Is there anything that you can think of that would help me in this area, right? This seems to be an area that you're really good with. And I like to do that. I like to not only be a little bit vulnerable, but actually call out to the things, the reasons why I brought that information. Because here's the thing, you're not just going to randomly bring, conversations to people who are not willing to actually go there with you, right? If you have somebody in your life that you're they're not going to be open to this, then that's probably not the conversation you necessarily want to have. But it's all about sharing what's on your heart. And then ultimately what happens after that, remember, Amber, we can't control. If you're going into this thinking that I can say something right, I can convince them, and I can get them to help, their energy is not going to be there. Your energy is going to be a little bit forcing it or manipulation, right? But if you're simply going in there to hey, can I just share something that's on my heart? Because I'm really struggling with this, and I want to see if you have any ideas or any feedback, or even just saying it out loud will help me, right? And then you just have that conversation. Whatever comes out of it, whether they help you or not, at least you're going to have somebody else who knows what it is you're going through, and it's going to be able to help you out in the end. All right. So definitely lean into that. And then you said, oh, and also the internet. Yeah, definitely reach out to people who are in our coaching system, people who, you really truly value their opinion, right? Because you don't want to get some random person on social media to be giving you opinions and advice when you wouldn't accept any of that from them, because you don't know any of the behind the scenes stuff that they have going on. But definitely find somebody to lean into, to ask for help. Of course, go into any of our groups. I know you're a part of our groups. Ask for help. Do whatever you can to get people's attention, to just have a conversation. And I can't tell you how helpful it is just to say it out loud. Sometimes when we say it out loud, we realize it's not even really a problem at all. It's a part of life. I know you got 4 kids growing up right now, and they're all over the place, and they're doing all this stuff. Well, maybe that's just a part of life. Maybe life isn't supposed to be completely perfect right now. Maybe everything isn't supposed to be working out exactly the way it's supposed to work out. Maybe this is just the way that it's supposed to be right now, right? And it's going to give you an opportunity to grow, to learn from it, and to just be okay with where it's at, right? Always constantly striving to get better, which I know you are, Amber, but also at the same time, giving yourself some grace to realize how far you've been able to make it here. Okay. So super proud of you, friend, for making it this far. Thank you for asking that question. And guys, you might get to the end of this, and I know Teresa kind of talked about this, and you might be wondering, okay, how do I continue to get more done in my business without me having to do it? Now, Teresa alluded to this a little bit earlier. I'm going to leave you this not only in the description, but I'll also, once we get done here, you're going to be able to tap the screen if you're watching the replay. We have a video that talks about how to outsource, train, and like really help people become a part of your team and take it to the next level. If that is something you're looking for a way of training, delegating, outsourcing, so you don't have to do all that. Thankfully, like Kurt, my man right now, putting this up on the screen, like I don't have to do any of this. I don't have to do any of the editing, all those kind of things. It gives you more time during summertime to actually spend time with the family. And I can't tell you how much more of an awesome system it is when it's not just you working on your business, it's multiple other people too. So definitely hit that up. We talk a lot about how to find the right people and how to lead with your values and how to really lead them to not only help you hit your goals, but also help them hit their goals as well. I appreciate you guys so much. I know I say this a lot. You're really, doing us such a huge solid, not only from sharing these workshops, not only from watching them and listening to them in the background, and really participating in these calls. I just want to say how much I appreciate you for doing this, for making it to the end of another workshop. I appreciate you more than you know. We look forward to seeing you guys next week, and you guys have a fantastic weekend. Thank you guys for watching, and keep leading from the front, everybody. Bye, everybody.
Bye.